I sat alone in my parents' living room, heart pounding against my chest like a hammer. 4 years. 4 long years since I last saw my younger brother Tyler and Sarah, the woman who was once my wife. Now they were coming for a visit, and I had spent the last hour rehearsing how to act normal. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked rhythmically, counting down the minutes until I would face the 2 people who had shattered my world. When the doorbell finally rang, my mouth went dry. Before I tell you what happened next, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. And hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had to face someone who betrayed you. Trust me, what my dad revealed next changed everything. Sarah and I met during our sophomore year at University of Michigan. She was studying finance, and I was pursuing computer engineering. Our first encounter happened in the library, when we both reached for the same book on economic theory. I needed it for a technical elective while she was majoring in the subject. She got the book, but I got her number. That was the beginning of what I thought would be my forever story. After graduation, we dated for 3 years before I proposed. I still remember the night vividly. I had taken her to Lake Michigan at sunset, dropped to one knee on the sandy shore, and presented her with a diamond ring that had cost me 6 months of savings. Her eyes filled with tears as she said yes, and we embraced as waves gently lapped at our feet. Everything felt perfect. Our wedding was exactly what we had dreamed of. 120 guests, a beautiful venue overlooking the lake where I had proposed, and Sarah looking breathtaking in her white dress. Tyler served as my best man, delivering a toast that had everyone alternating between laughter and tears. He spoke about how lucky I was to have found Sarah and how lucky she was to have me. If only I had noticed the way he looked at her that day. After the wedding, we bought our first house together in a quiet suburb of Detroit. It was a modest 3-bedroom home with a backyard, perfect for the children we planned to have someday. We spent weekends painting walls, assembling furniture, and planting a garden. Every night I fell asleep beside Sarah, feeling like the luckiest man alive. Tyler had always been my shadow growing up. 3 years younger than me, he followed me everywhere as a kid. We built forts in the backyard, rode bikes through the neighborhood, and defended each other from bullies. When our parents argued, which happened more frequently than we liked to admit, we would hide in my room playing video games to drown out the sound. As adults, we remained close, though our paths diverged significantly. While I focused on building my career at a software company, climbing steadily through the ranks, Tyler bounced between jobs. He had the charm and intelligence to succeed, but lacked persistence. Whenever things got tough, he would quit and try something new, always convinced the next opportunity would be his big break. When Tyler lost his job at an advertising agency and his landlord raised the rent, I offered our spare bedroom without hesitation. Sarah agreed it would only be temporary until he found his footing again. That decision would become the first domino in a cascade of events that would ultimately destroy my marriage. The first few weeks with Tyler staying with us were uneventful. I left for work early each morning, while Sarah, who worked at a bank with more flexible hours, departed later. Tyler spent his days allegedly job hunting, though I noticed his job applications were few and far between. What I failed to notice was how much time he and Sarah began spending together. Small changes started appearing in my relationship with Sarah. She seemed less enthusiastic about our evening conversations. Our intimate life became less frequent, with Sarah often claiming she was too tired or had a headache. When I suggested weekend trips or date nights, she would find excuses to stay home. I attributed it all to stress at her job, never suspecting the real reason behind her withdrawal. For my 30th birthday, I decided to surprise Sarah with a special evening. I took a rare day off work and spent the afternoon preparing her favorite meal, salmon, with asparagus, wild rice, and chocolate soufflé for dessert. I set the dining table with our best china-lit candles and chilled a bottle of expensive champagne. As a gift, I had purchased a delicate sapphire necklace that matched her eyes. The jeweler had helped me select the perfect stone, set in white gold with tiny diamonds surrounding it. I had been saving for months to afford it, skipping lunches out with colleagues and canceling my gym membership to make it happen. The small velvet box sat wrapped in silver paper beside her plate. That evening I imagined us discussing our future. We had been talking about starting a family, and I felt ready to begin that journey. I pictured Sarah wearing the necklace I had bought her, glowing with happiness as we planned for a baby. I imagined our life continuing on the path I had always envisioned. Successful careers, children playing in our backyard, growing old together, surrounded by grandchildren. The fantasy I had created crumbled exactly 2 days after my birthday celebration. I had been called into an emergency meeting at work that morning, but managed to resolve the issue by early afternoon. Deciding to surprise Sarah by coming home early, I stopped to buy flowers on the way. When I pulled into our driveway, both her car and Tyler's car were there. I thought nothing of it, assuming they were both having lunch at home. I entered quietly through the front door, flowers in hand. The house seemed unusually silent. No television sounds, no music, no conversation. I called out but received no answer. As I approached our bedroom, I heard muffled sounds that made my blood run cold. The door was partially open, and what I saw through that gap destroyed me in an instant. My wife and my brother. In our bed. The bed I had shared with Sarah for 3 years. I pushed the door fully open, the hinges creaking loudly. They scrambled apart, Sarah pulling the sheets up to cover herself, while Tyler jumped to his feet. For several seconds, nobody spoke. The flowers I had been holding fell to the floor, rose petals scattering across the hardwood like drops of blood. Sarah spoke first. Not with an apology, not with shame, but with a clinical detachment that shocked me even more than what I had witnessed. "Jean, we need to talk," she said. "This is not what it looks like." Really, I remember my voice sounding strangely calm despite the hurricane raging inside me. "Because it looks like my wife is sleeping with my brother in our bed." Tyler pulled on his jeans and stood before me, not a trace of remorse on his face. "We did not want you to find out this way, bro. Sarah and I, we have feelings for each other. Real feelings. It just happened. Just happened," I repeated. "How long has this been just happening?" Sarah looked at Tyler before answering. "A few months. I was going to tell you after your birthday." That night, Sarah packed her things while I sat in the living room numb with shock. Tyler hovered nearby, occasionally attempting to justify their betrayal with phrases like, "You cannot help who you fall in love with, and we never meant to hurt you." Each word felt like a knife twisting in my chest. When Sarah approached me with divorce papers already prepared, I realized how long they had been planning this. She had consulted a lawyer weeks ago, perhaps even before my birthday. While I had been saving for her necklace and planning our future, she had been planning her exit. "I will give you time to review these with your own attorney," she said, placing the folder on the coffee table. "I am only asking for what is fair." They left together that night, Sarah in her car, and Tyler following behind in his. As their taillights disappeared down our street, the life I had built collapsed around me. The months that followed were the darkest of my life. I moved through each day in a fog, barely functioning. At work, my performance suffered. Projects I would have normally completed with ease took me twice as long, and I made careless errors that caught the attention of my supervisor. After a particularly disastrous presentation to clients, my boss called me into his office. "Whatever is going on in your personal life needs to stay at home," he warned. "One more mistake like today, and we will have to reconsider your position." The warning was enough to jolt me temporarily out of my depression. I could not lose my job on top of everything else. I forced myself to focus during working hours, channeling my pain into productivity. At night, however, I would return to an empty house filled with memories and unanswered questions. I tried calling Sarah several times during those first few weeks. Each call went straight to voicemail. Eventually, I received a text asking me to stop contacting her, stating that all communication should go through our respective lawyers. I learned from mutual friends that she and Tyler had moved to Chicago, where Sarah had transferred to another branch of her bank. Our shared friends gradually took sides. Some, particularly couples we had socialized with, regularly stopped calling altogether. Others expressed sympathy, but maintained relationships with both parties, creating awkward situations where I would be invited to gatherings only to discover that Tyler and Sarah had been deliberately scheduled for a different day. My parents reacted to the situation with mixed emotions. My mother, Linda, was devastated. She called me daily, her voice often breaking as she attempted to comfort me while processing her own sense of betrayal by her younger son. "I did not raise him to do something like this," she would say repeatedly. "I just cannot understand it, Jean." My father, Frank, reacted differently. Rather than emotional outbursts, he became unusually quiet, speaking little about the situation. When Tyler called home, Dad would have brief formal conversations before handing the phone to Mom. I assumed his reserve was his way of processing the family crisis, but as I would later discover, there was much more behind his silence. Holiday gatherings became tense affairs. That first Thanksgiving after the betrayal, Mom set a place for Tyler out of habit, then burst into tears when she realized what she had done. Christmas was even worse. Tyler called to say he and Sarah would not be attending, and I overheard Mom pleading with him to reconsider while Dad sat stoically in his armchair, eyes fixed on the newspaper. 13 months after Sarah left, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. Tyler and Sarah, requesting the pleasure of my company, as they formalized their relationship. I tore it into tiny pieces and flushed it down the toilet, then drank myself into oblivion for the first and only time during the ordeal. 3 years after Tyler and Sarah left, the call from my mother came on a Sunday morning. I had just returned from a run, part of my new routine that had helped me slowly rebuild my life. "Your father and I would like you to come for dinner next Saturday," Mom said, her voice carrying an unusual tension. "Sure, Mom. Everything okay?" A pause. "Tyler and Sarah are coming. They are going to be in town for a conference, and they called to ask if they could visit." My stomach clenched. "Mom, I do not think that is a good idea. Please, Jean. Your father specifically asked for you to be here. He says it is important." Important how? He would not tell me exactly. He has been acting strange lately, making phone calls when he thinks I am not listening, going through old files in his office. I am worried about him, Jean. He has not been himself. Concern for my father overrode my reluctance to face Tyler and Sarah. Dad had always been healthy, but he was approaching 60, and men in his family had a history of heart problems. "All right," I conceded. "What time?" 6 o'clock. "And Jean, thank you." The week crawled by, as I alternated between dreading Saturday and steeling myself for the confrontation. I had not seen either of them since they left 4 years ago, though I had seen their life played out on social media through mutual connections. Vacations in Mexico, a new house in Chicago, Sarah receiving a promotion at work. They had built their happiness on the ruins of mine. By Saturday, I had rehearsed what I would say a dozen times. I would be civil but distant. I would not show how deeply they had hurt me. I would make my appearance for my parents' sake, particularly if my father was ill. But I would not pretend we could ever be a family again. I arrived early at my mother's request. She hugged me tightly at the door, her eyes conveying gratitude and worry in equal measure. Dad was in his usual chair, reading glasses perched on his nose as he reviewed what appeared to be official documents. "Jean," he said, looking up. "Good to see you, son. We need to talk before they arrive." Mom excused herself to the kitchen, leaving us alone. Dad removed his glasses and fixed me with the intense gaze I remembered from childhood interrogations about broken windows or missed curfews. "I need you to stay calm when they get here," he said. "No matter what they say or do. Can you promise me?" That I nodded, confusion adding to my anxiety. "Dad, are you okay? Mom is worried about you." A smile touched his lips. "I am fine. Better than fine, actually. I have been working on something. And today, It all comes together. Just follow my lead. Before I could press him further, the doorbell rang. Mom emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands nervously on her apron. Dad nodded at me, a signal I did not fully understand, but acknowledged nonetheless. Mom opened the door, and there they stood. Tyler looking prosperous in an expensive suit I suspected he could not really afford, and Sarah, her hair shorter than I remembered, wearing a dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. The sight of them hit me harder than I had anticipated. 4 years had dulled the pain to a manageable ache, but seeing them standing there hand in hand brought it all rushing back. Mom Tyler embraced our mother with theatrical enthusiasm. Sarah hung back, offering a stiff smile. When they entered the living room and saw me, Tyler paused momentarily before his face settled into a smug grin. "Well, look who it is," he said. "The prodigal brother returns." "Or wait, I guess I am the prodigal one, right?" I said nothing, remembering my promise to Dad. "Still single Gene." LOL. Tyler laughed at his own joke, actually saying the acronym aloud like we were in some kind of text message. Sarah stepped forward, her eyes assessing me coldly. "Hey, ugly, still the same. I thought you might have at least upgraded your style since I left." I felt heat rising to my face, my hands automatically clenching into fists. Then I caught my father's eye. The slight shake of his head reminded me of his request. "Tyler, Sarah," Dad said, rising from his chair. "Good timing. I have something important to tell you." The confident smirks on their faces faltered. Something in Dad's tone caused an immediate shift in the atmosphere. I noticed Sarah's hand tighten around Tyler's arm. "What is it, Dad?" Tyler asked, his voice losing some of its earlier bravado. Dad walked calmly to his briefcase beside the chair, removed a thick folder, and placed it on the coffee table. "Please sit down," he said, gesturing to the couch. They sat, Tyler now looking wary. Mom remained standing in the doorway, her expression unreadable. Dad opened the folder. "Tyler, do you remember when I was a detective with the Detroit Police Department before I retired?" Tyler nodded. "Sure, Dad. 25 years on the force. You mention it every chance you get." Dad smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. Old habits die hard. Once a detective, always a detective. You start noticing things, patterns of behavior, inconsistencies in stories. He removed a stack of papers from the folder. "Like when my son suddenly has money for expensive watches and luxury vacations despite having no steady employment for years." Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "I got lucky with some investments." "Investments," Dad repeated. "Yes, that is what you told everyone. But detectives verify. They investigate. They gather evidence." He placed several bank statements on the table. "These are copies of transactions from accounts you opened under false names. Accounts where you deposited money from at least 7 different people who thought they were investing in your non-existent tech startup." Sarah turned to Tyler, confusion clouding her features. "What is he talking about?" Dad continued before Tyler could respond. "I have been working with the FBI for the past 18 months, Tyler. They have been building a case against you for wire fraud, identity theft, and about a dozen other financial crimes." The color drained from Tyler's face. "You are making this up." "Am I?" Dad pulled out his phone, dialed a number, and put it on speaker. "Agent Bradshaw. They are here." "We will be there in 5 minutes, Detective Wilson," a female voice responded. Sarah stood abruptly. "Tyler, what have you done?" Tyler grabbed her arm, pulling her back down. "Nothing. Dad is just trying to scare me. This is some kind of sick joke." Dad shook his head sadly. "No joke, son." "And Sarah, I am afraid you are involved too. Your bank accounts have been used to launder money. Did you know that the down payment on your house came from elderly victims who thought they were investing their retirement funds?" Sarah's face crumpled. "No, that is not possible." Tyler said it was from his investment returns. Dad pulled out more documents. "These are withdrawals from your joint account, transferring money to offshore accounts." "Sarah, did you authorize these?" She snatched the papers, eyes widening as she scanned them. I never signed these. Tyler told me he was handling our finances. Dad nodded. I thought as much. The FBI will want to question you, but I believe you were another victim. Tyler has been using your banking expertise and access to facilitate his schemes. Tyler jumped to his feet. This is ridiculous. You cannot prove anything. That was when I decided it was time to speak. After sitting silently through the confrontation, watching my father methodically dismantle the life Tyler had built on lies, I stood and faced my brother. Actually, Tyler, we can prove everything I said calmly. Dad is not the only one who has been gathering evidence. Tyler turned to me, anger and confusion battling across his features. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and pulled up an app. Remember that startup I have been working on at my company? The one developing financial security systems for banking transactions. We built algorithms that detect unusual patterns in financial data, flagging potential fraud. Tyler stared at me, beginning to understand. When Dad first suspected something was wrong with your sudden wealth, he came to me. My team and I have been tracking your activities for 2 years, documenting every transaction, every fake identity, every victim. You helped him, Tyler spat the words. Your own brother. You stopped being my brother the day you took my wife. I replied evenly. But this is not about revenge. This is about justice for the people you stole from. Elderly couples who lost their retirement savings. Single parents who thought they were investing in their children's future. People who trusted you because you were charming and persuasive. The sound of cars pulling into the driveway filtered through the windows. Tyler lunged toward the back door, but Dad blocked his path. You have 2 options, Dad said. Turn yourself in now. Cooperate with the investigation, and maybe get a reduced sentence. Or run, make things worse, and eventually get caught anyway. Because you will get caught, Tyler. Sarah had collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. I did not know, she kept repeating. I swear I did not know. I approached her, keeping my voice neutral. The FBI will need your cooperation, Sarah. Full disclosure of everything you know, even if you did not realize its significance at the time. She looked up at me, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Jean, I am so sorry for everything. What I did to you, and now this. How did I not see who he really was? The same way I did not see who you really were, I replied. The words carried no bitterness now, just a statement of fact. The doorbell rang, and Mom went to answer it. 2 FBI agents entered the living room, followed by a police officer in uniform. Tyler Wilson, the female agent asked. Tyler's shoulders slumped in defeat. As the agents read him his rights, Sarah continued crying on the couch. Mom stood in the corner of the room, one hand covering her mouth. When Tyler had been handcuffed and led outside, the female agent turned to Sarah. Mrs. Wilson, we will need you to come with us as well for questioning. Am I under arrest? Sarah asked, her voice small. Not at this time, but we do have some serious questions about your involvement. As Sarah gathered her purse, she paused beside me. Jean, I know it does not mean anything now, but I made the biggest mistake of my life leaving you. I reached into my pocket and pulled out an envelope. These are divorce papers. From you and Tyler. My lawyer drew them up once we knew this was coming. You will probably want a clean break before the trial. She took the envelope with trembling hands. You planned for everything. I learned to be prepared for the worst after what happened 4 years ago. As Sarah was escorted out, I felt a strange sense of closure. The pain that had defined so much of my life for the past 4 years did not disappear, but it transformed into something different. Something that no longer had power over me. Dad placed his hand on my shoulder. You okay, son? I nodded. Better than I have been in a long time. The months after Tyler's arrest were challenging in different ways. The investigation revealed that his fraud was more extensive than even Dad had uncovered. Dozens of victims across multiple states, more than $2 million stolen over 3 years. Sarah cooperated fully with the authorities and was eventually cleared of criminal charges, though the financial repercussions were severe. The house in Chicago was seized, her career in banking destroyed. I heard through mutual friends that she moved back to her hometown in Ohio, taking a job as a receptionist at a dental office. Tyler accepted a plea deal and was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Mom visits him occasionally. Dad and I do not. For me, the process of healing had begun long before that confrontation. The first year after the betrayal had been about survival, simply getting through each day. The second year was about rebuilding, focusing on my career, and rediscovering interests I had neglected during my marriage. By the third year, I had started dating again, cautiously at first. I met Melissa at a company charity event where she was representing her psychology practice. Unlike Sarah, who had always needed to be the center of attention, Melissa listened more than she spoke. She asked questions about my work, my interests, my dreams for the future. When I finally told her about Sarah and Tyler, she did not offer empty platitudes about time healing all wounds. Instead, she acknowledged the pain and betrayal without letting it define who I was. Our relationship progressed naturally without the desperate need for validation that had characterized my early dating life after Sarah. 6 months after Tyler's arrest, I asked Melissa to move in with me. We now talk about marriage as a possibility, not a necessity. She has taught me that healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and honest communication, not dramatic declarations of love or material displays of affection. My relationship with my parents, particularly my father, grew stronger through the ordeal. Dad and I meet for breakfast every Sunday, a tradition that began during the investigation, but continued after it concluded. We rarely talk about Tyler or Sarah anymore. Instead, we discuss books we have read, projects at work, or his new hobby of woodworking that occupies his retirement days. The greatest lesson I learned from this experience was not about betrayal or justice, but about resilience. I discovered that the human spirit has an extraordinary capacity to endure pain and emerge stronger. The betrayal that once defined my existence is now simply a chapter in my story, not the whole book. Sometimes the people who hurt us most profoundly are unwittingly preparing us for the life we are meant to have. Had Sarah remained faithful, had Tyler been the brother I thought he was, I would never have developed the strength I now possess. I would never have discovered my capacity for forgiveness, not for their sake, but for my own peace of mind. Looking back, I realize that true freedom comes not from revenge, but from reclaiming your power to define your own happiness. Have you ever experienced a betrayal that ultimately led you to a better place in life? Share your story in the comments below, and if this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And remember, sometimes what feels like the end is really just the beginning of something better. Thank you for listening, and I hope whatever challenges you are facing, you find the strength to transform them into stepping stones toward a brighter future.